Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. It's me, Chris Brack, and I'm here with my favourite people, Ashley and Kev. I love see you guys in the chat. And we're here to preview Liverpool against Arsenal. And if you're in the Telegram group, you know with me and Ashley, this is going to get quite spicy. So we'll go to Kev first because I don't know how long I'm going to last in this podcast. Hello, Kev. How are
Hiya,
you
mate.
doing?
How's it going? I'm all right. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Were you not in the Telegram? Were you not in the Telegram group this week?
No, really. I've been dipping in and out of it. Don't tend to get involved too much in the drama in there at the minute, to be honest.
Oh, Ashley was just horrendous today. She was just
really?
threatening everyone for no apparent reason.
I think I was the one that was doing the instigating. But anyways, you have to go into our Telegram group to figure out what we're talking about.
So, sign up to be a member, Patreon, get into our Telegram group, and you just see me and Ashley have arguments. It's great fun. It's a chip chat. It was amazing. We may give some previews out later. I think Brian O'Sullivan was on my side, which you're in a bad situation when Brian O'Sullivan's on your side. So anyway, so it's been a quiet week, hasn't it, guys? Apparently, there's a bit of European football, so we'll see what happens. Oh, Arsenal for Life to the chat. Hello, my friend. What's he put here? You all must be so happy seeing us go out. We were. It was quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, hard to lie about that.
It's hard to lie about that. The more funny thing, and we will talk about it, is your manager's absolute mental breakdown, which is gloriously funny. It jumps off what David Brent would do. So before we talk about Liverpool and Arsenal, because we'll get to that, should we talk about midweek? Because let's start, Ashley, with the best game ever. Inter Milan against Barcelona. That is one of the best semi-finals you will ever see. It was so much fun.
I think it was one of those games where I think both parties genuinely felt for a brief window of time that they were going to go on and do amazing things. And then you saw just how quickly that can flip. And I think what you saw was the strengths of both teams and also just how they both have deficiencies. They can outscore one another, but I don't know. The transitions for both teams for me was just, I don't know. It just made for a really exciting match. I didn't think that it was going to be that exciting. I thought Inter would cancel out a lot of Barca's kind of forward momentum, but that wasn't the case at all. Barcelona's line was so incredibly high that it just kept giving them chances. And the way that it finished at home, I would have loved to have been in that crowd. And I think that that's a night that they'll remember forever. And it just was such a complete performance, especially just watching as a neutral. It was such a fun game to watch.
I mean, Kev, Ange Postecoglou will have a wet dream about that Barcelona high line. Honestly, he'd love that. But I know this is going to be being a bit negative Nelly. If I'm a Barcelona fan, though, you are going to drop kick. Yamal. Literally, like a couple minutes to go, you're the head in the tie, and he goes, "Should I take it in the corner? Fuck it, I'm going to have an outrageous shot from distance and literally kick it up the field and score from it." You'd be looking and go, "What are you doing?" That's the one time you go. That's still the one time you go like, "It's fine with 2 minutes to go. We're just going to go to the corner now, lads. We'll take the win." I mean, the fact that they threw a lad up front who's never scored for them in any competition, and they went, "Oh, sorry, we'll stick him up front," and he scores a beauty of a first goal to send it into extra time. It's a cracking goal.
It was one of those games over the two legs that I'd happily sit down knowing the result.
Yeah.
Because it was pure entertainment for an attacking football. And I watched Arne Slot's press conference today, and he talked about both games, and he was like, you could see why people preferred Inter Barcelona, but both ties were fantastic games of football. But this one, Inter had no right to win that. They really didn't. Barcelona had, once they got back into it, once they got it back to 2-0, they had all the momentum. You had Lewandowski coming off the bench. Yeah, Lamau should have gone to the corner, but it's a reminder that he is 17. And you want sides. I think we've done that. We've done that in games where you've been level or you've been one up and you want to go and make sure of it. It's the risk you take that you're going to get caught in a sucker punch. But, he goes up, he scores that. Tie's done. Forget about it. So I don't think they'll ever change. That's the thing with Barcelona. The high line, I mean, it's
great, isn't
it? It's what we did for a while under Jurgen Klopp, played that ridiculous high line. And it wasn't ridiculous because the amount of times they caught Inter offside from silly positions, halfway inside their own half, defending, and they were playing an offside trap. It was crazy to watch. But they're so well drilled. They're so good at it. Hansi Flick is a phenomenal coach. And it goes to show what you can do with a side that's really well drilled, and everyone buys into it because they're not household name defenders. They're not what you turn around and say they're world class defenders or anything even close. They're missing a lot of players, but they all know what their job is. And crazy game of football. Lautaro Martinez in that game, and Marcus Thuram as a two up front. Bear in mind,
Martinez wasn't fit.
He wasn't fit, and he was unreal. He was there. It was two complete opposite styles of football: 4-3-3 versus a 5-3-2. Both sides are brilliant in the systems that they play, and
it was a styles makes fight sort of match, wasn't it? They actually complemented each other as in strengths and weaknesses. We actually made it.
The thing is, how many times have we watched sides in the Premier League playing five at the back, playing 5-3-2, and they soak up pressure and they soak up pressure. You see Crystal Palace be the bane of Man City's existence, playing that way and playing on the counter, but there's not many sides who are really good at it. Inter Milan are phenomenal at it.
That's how Chelsea won the Champions League, playing that five at the back.
Very true.
Yeah, but there's different ways to do it. They do it in an attacking sense because, as Davey says there, Dumfries would be a beast. If you go back and watch the extended highlights, watch what happens when they turn the ball over. Both fullbacks are gone. They don't think about it. They just go because they know that one pass into midfield as a wall pass back to a centre-back, the ball out wider, left or right, is always on because the fullbacks are gone. And that's a discipline. That's a trust. It's really difficult to do because when you get it wrong and you turn the ball back over in a counter press, your three centre backs are isolated and invariably you're going to concede a goal. But no, phenomenal game of football. I hope Inter go on and win it because some of their players deserve it. It's a second final in 3 years, and they're just really exciting to watch. I really like watching them, and they're
good
the most unfancied side of the four going into the final. Despite the fact that Arsenal have never won a Champions League or anything in recent years, Inter, they were still ahead of Inter in the betting. So I'd love to see them go on and win it. And it's not the fact, it's just, and I have nothing against PSG, the players, Luis Enrique, anything like that. It's their ownership model I hate with a passion, and I hope they never win anything major in Europe ever. So I hate seeing that ownership model rewarded in any way, shape, or form. In the same way as I hate the Man City ownership model, in the same way I hate the Newcastle ownership model. It's nothing to do with the clubs, the fans, the players, anything like that. I hate the ownership models. So, I hope Inter go on and win it, but it's going to be a cracking final as well. It's one of those games, and it's styles make fights, but it's one of those games that if it was kind of like the American version, like they had a World Series over 7 games, if it was a two-legged semi-final or a two-legged final, it would be intriguing because both sides look like they can play they play in a different way all the time. They look like they could throw up two different games back to back, and both of them would be compelling to watch. I'm really looking forward to the final. Can't wait.
So actually, we'll go on to PSG against Arsenal. Credit to Arsenal. I thought Arsenal played really well the first half hour. Of the second leg, they were very dominant. But I also think they will talk about injuries, and yes, they have got injuries. They've got some key players missing. But I think that those 2 legs summed up Arsenal this season, which is they don't put teams to the sword, and they haven't done it much all season. But I remember sitting here at the start of the season when we were looking at the squads, going Liverpool, City, Arsenal. What do you think of the squads? And we all went, if you need to chase a goal, you want the Liverpool squad or the City squad. If you want to hold on to a 1-0 window, you want the Arsenal squad. The Arsenal squad's built to do the 1-0 Arsenal because that's how it's built. And they've got away from that because they now have either the record of the second highest points lost from winning positions. And you just look at Arsenal, I think that's the difference where, as much as Arsenal on top and Donnarumma makes some really good saves, you're going, Arsenal don't do that when the pressure's on. I think when the expectation has hit them this season, the people you expect to stand up haven't. And I think you just saw that gap. And then the manager's just on another planet off his rocker. We'll come to him in a minute. I think there's a bigger conversation to have about it. But we'll come to that in a minute.
I think there is. I mean, without sounding salty, I mean, I do think that there is clearly a couple of key players that are missing in that Arsenal side. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think it's the way that Rice portrayed it, where he was saying like, "Oh, we've missed 5 or 6 players for every single game this season." And I think that to me was an exaggeration. That probably the messaging probably came from Arteta and it filtered down through the players. But I do think you look at like someone like Havertz, he would have made a big difference. I think he's one of those players that does finish off those attacking moves. I thought Saka looked really good in that game. I thought Odegaard looked like he was stringing together, knitting things together a little bit better. I think like Scouser Pete puts into the chat, he is so risk averse. And I think that he had that team playing in a way where those starting 11 players like were very fine tuned, but anytime he had to rotate, it's like the balance just went off kilter and he wasn't able to bring in players and have them fit seamlessly. And it is a skill, like rotating your squad players. And he hasn't done that for years. Yes, we talked about them not signing a striker at the beginning of the year and that being a glaringly obvious problem. But we also noted last year that he didn't rotate and that those players were going to get tired and that they might risk injury. Last year, they got really fortuitous without injuries. I mean, they had some, but nothing to this extent. And that's why they were able to compete as long as they did in the league. And I think right now you're just seeing this domino effect from essentially poor management, poor man management and load and where they are in the red zone. And I think once you start getting injuries, that just kind of cascades and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think it's a whole bunch of things going on for Arsenal. I think the biggest issue I see, though, is the messaging from Arteta, where instead of taking responsibility and saying, yes, like there are some key players we were missing, there's, a final piece of finishing that we were lacking, instead of just taking responsibility for what was going on, he sits there and he's like, well, we were the best team in the tournament and the stats tell me that it was the best team in the tournament and the PSG bench tells me it's the best team in the tournament and we were somehow wronged. And I don't think that's the case.
It sounds good until Luis Enrique's asked and he goes like, yeah, they made things difficult, he said, but I think we were the best side before we went through. We scored all goals. It was like, and listen,
he just sounds a little bit delusional.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's easy to rag on other fan channels, and we all know the ones that we rag on for Arsenal. But there was a chap in there, Turkish, and he did a reaction thing on his channel. It was very fair, which he said, and he was quite right. Just said, "Can I just question why can't our managers come out and just say, congratulations, PSG, on the day they were just better." It's tough to take because I think we played well, but look, on the day they were better. He said, and move on. He goes, that's the grace you want. I think Salah, when we got knocked out by PSG, summed it perfectly. He said, we got away with it in the first leg. He goes, I think PSG got away with it in the second leg. It went to penalties on the day it was their day. He goes, we play those 2 legs again, it might be us going through. He said, them's the breaks you get. He said, but look, you take it on the chin, you move on. Sometimes you just have to. There are times where you can just say, on the day it wasn't to be.
I don't know what
he could have built off that because I don't really know what he gets in this because it's not. There's no need for a siege mentality now. It almost feels a bit like job preservation.
I don't know what he's trying to achieve. Players know football better than anyone, and then inside the dressing room, they'll know. They'll know that they had chances in the first leg. They'll know that Donnarumma played well, but they'll also know that they didn't finish their dinner. And it's not the first time. I think it's 13 draws this season. Ridiculous amount of points dropped from winning positions. They should be 21. Further up the table. Yeah, that's a joke. I mean, if you have that, you have a title race. And the difference is, you can put it down. You're missing 1 or 2 players, but you're missing Kai Havertz. In all fairness, Kai Havertz is not going to be the be-all and end-all of you winning a league. You know, they got their summer transfer business wrong last year. I think he had a really good spell 2 years ago. Last year, he flogged all of his core players to within an inch of his life to try to get to a title, and it fell short just. It was narrow, it was close. They gave it a good go. They didn't learn from what happened to us after we won a title when the season started and we picked up injury after injury after injury. Common sense tells you that you can't, these athletes are finely tuned at the best of times. You can't keep going to the well and not expect what happened to happen this season to them. I mean, the amount of hamstring injuries, that tells you they've been overplayed, overtrained, not doing their job properly off the pitch in recovery. There's plenty of indicators. They all spent a fortune on coaches. And as Ant puts it there, £800 million deep, and he's got an FA Cup with a squad that wasn't his, that he literally just ripped up. He won with a squad that was Unai Emery's, and then they gave him money, and he's come close a couple of times. But when you look at the eye test will tell you that every year they've got progressively worse. This year, they've fallen off a cliff. Yes, they probably will finish second. Yes, they got to a Champions League semi-final. But at the end of the day, trust your eyes. Your eyes will tell you that over 90 minutes, they don't finish you off, and they will give you chances. I mean, for a side who are so strong in set pieces, they concede a ridiculous amount of goals in set pieces.
They don't show us set piece coach then, do they?
No, it's bonkers to me.
Have you noticed that? They never show set piece.
Side of his mural, we don't see that one that much.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like, I need the attacker ones, guys. I don't know who does defensive ones. That's not me. It's like we should have a set piece coach that only comes off the defending cause, because barring a handful, we're actually quite good. We're generally quite good at that.
But here's the thing: you look at the first half of that second leg, they battered PSG. They absolutely battered them. And the goal when PSG scored it was well against the run of play, but they had the warning signs a couple of minutes before it, and they never took any notice. And as soon as the goal went in, you're 2-0 down in the tie, and it's so deflating. That's the difference. When you're playing in a Champions League semi-final and your first leg is at home, you have to carry a positive result into the second leg. If it's a draw, at the bare minimum, it has to be level going into the second leg. If you lose the first leg, all it takes is what happened to Arsenal, and the tie is virtually done at 2-0, because the odds of you getting 3 back, away from home, when you aren't really scoring prolifically, is soul destroying. And the way they attacked that game, it was almost reckless abandonment. They knew they had to get the first goal early, and they never did.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not one for normally saying, talk about managers going in there, but I can see why Arsenal fans would question it. I know some people say, well, look, they got, he's got second again, they got to a semi-final. But there is a point where you go, he's a very good manager, and listen, where Arsenal are from where he took over, league position-wise, getting it back into Europe, are all positives. I'm wondering for him is that could be as far as he can take them, and then you need the next level up manager to do what I call do the Stardust bit, which is finish the job off. You sometimes you don't always get a Klopp or a Pep Guardiola or a Ferguson who could build a squad and get them to win it. I generally thought Arsenal at some point would look at someone like an Ancelotti. That's Ancelotti's specialty, is taking sides who are on the cusp, just need something to push them over the line, which is him and a couple of players, and his Stardust will get you over the line. And that's what he does. That's what he does with a lot of clubs. Yeah. It kind of feels like they need that, because at the moment, Arteta's Arsenal to me smack very much of Pochettino Spurs.
Yeah.
Media darlings, nice to look at, but when the big game, the big trophies are on the line, I mean leagues and European Cups.
But I don't think they even are now. This is what I mean. 2 years ago, they were a great watch. They were really entertaining. They were a great watch. Last year, first half of the season, they were entertaining. This season, they're turgid.
They've doubled down.
The set pieces are one thing. That's fine, but they're turgid to watch. They really are. Odegaard has gone backwards, and he was a special player for 2 years. A really, really good number 10. A rare breed in today's game is a natural number 10. He looks a shadow of the player he was. His link-up play, his passing, his vision, everything, confidence, just everything is drained. And I mean, whether it's a mentality thing or a physical thing, I don't know. But at the end of the day, everything goes down their right. They're really easy to read. You know what they're going to do. And look, Saka's good. He's really good. And he'll give Robertson or whoever plays on the left for us on Sunday a really good, tough game. But apart from that, I don't know. I think they got a lot of work to do. I was
surprised Trossard didn't start over Martinelli because I feel like he's been off the boil all season.
I don't know.
To be fair to Trossard, when he plays, he's more of a pain in the arse. He's one of those players thinking I could do without him. If you're an opposition player, and I mean that as a compliment. Whereas Martinelli just actually hasn't quite been at it most of the season. He's just been off, hasn't he? And look, players have those seasons.
I mean, he had that moment in time where Klopp was. I actually thought that he would have been a good fit for us to take on and mold into the next possible winger. I know Klopp spoke very highly of him, and I do think whether it's Odegaard, whether it's Martinelli, I think you're looking at some of these players, and I'm looking at Arteta from the perspective of the player and wondering what it's like to be coached by him, because you see him not taking responsibility for his actions just in press conferences. I don't know what he's like behind the scenes, but there was a really fascinating interview with a psychologist that worked with Arne Slot at Feyenoord, and he talked about the way that he spoke to players post-match and about why it was so effective and why the players grew so much with Arne Slot. And he told them that part of Slot's demeanor was just sitting the players down and telling them their failures like it is, without sugarcoating it, without coming up with excuses. He would sit them down, he would give them footage, and he would say, this is not good enough. This is where you need to improve. That's it. Black and white, clear as day. We're going to work on this issue. And he was saying that from the perspective of growth, that the players were actually able to take that on a little bit easier than sort of the veiled messages or the, team mentality or the world is against us mentality. Having it laid out in black and white is much more effective for a player to then grow and develop. And I look at Arteta and I just wonder, can he take those players to the next step? Who among those players has he really elevated? I think there's a few academy players, but I don't know if that's on Arteta. I think that that's probably on the Arsenal Academy that look fantastic this year. But I do wonder in terms of, that 1% extra that they might need to truly challenge next year. Can he do that? Is that possible? Or is he just going to throw money at the wall again and hope that it sticks? And
well, he
if
does.
He goes for City rejects, that's not going to work.
Well, he does. He does need another defender, doesn't he? Because I don't think he's quite got enough stock there. So that might
2.0 thing is not. It's not going to work anymore.
Right, and then Thursday night. Fuck me. It's going to be fun, isn't it? Kev's already got his Tottenham shirt with Isle of Ange on the back of it. I am tempted. Actually, should we do a watch along with Kev of the Europa League final where we can, if Tottenham win, we can just watch Kev and go on, Kev.
I would be happy if Tottenham win.
So would I.
I am Team Spurs.
So would I. And watch Kev with gritty teeth going, I'm so happy for Ange. This is fantastic.
I mean, I don't know. I would be happy for Son if he was to lift a trophy. I'd be happy for Solanke if he was to get there. Anything but Man United, really. You're picking between, shit and a little more shit. And the difference is not that great.
There's a couple things for me. One is it's Man United, and let's be honest, it's no secret we all don't like him. So Man United not winning something and going not in Europe is a bad thing for them, which is good for us. And do you know what it is with Tottenham? And this could come back and bite me in the arse. If it does, it does. Yeah, Tottenham might win a trophy, but do we really think that's going to kick them on to make Tottenham a big threat? No. It could do with Man United because they've got the money. They've got the money for it,
and that would be a great reward.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I mean, yeah, Tottenham in Champions League with that high line could be absolutely brilliant to watch.
It'll be like Newcastle, where they're in and then they're out. No offense, Davey, in the chat. I mean, they were, but I don't think they'll compete really, unless they make some tremendous signings over the course of the summer.
Yeah, look, here's the thing, right? In this new format, the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, while the Conference League was a good idea at the time when they launched it, it's just a joke now. Any Premier League side that enters the Conference League has to be winning that, because look at the budgets that they have available to them as compared to any other side that's in that competition. You're talking about sides who are finishing 5th and 6th in their domestic leagues against the likes of a Chelsea. I mean, come on. It's a nonsense competition that's massively suffered from sides not dropping into it. So has the Europa League. The Europa League, despite the fact that the sides who drop in don't tend to kick on and win it, but they add a sense of occasion to a competition when they go through the last 16, last 8. It's, again, sides who are either winning domestic cups, finishing in the Premier League in normal years, 5th, 6th, should be getting to the latter stages of that competition and pushing to win it as well. But the fact that this year you don't have anyone dropping into it, and the side, whoever wins it, is going to finish in the bottom half of the Premier League, closer to relegation than they are to Champions League spots, makes a mockery of the whole competition. And the fact that they get, whoever goes through, gets a Champions League spot on the back of it is something that, because the formation, the competition has been rejigged, I think that aspect I think they should get, whoever wins the competition should get an automatic qualification back into the competition.
I think they should go into playoff rounds.
No, I don't think they should be going up one at all. I honestly don't. I don't see the reward is winning the competition, and you come back next year to defend it.
You shouldn't be. Well, not the playoffs, the qualification. Like, I feel like that would make sense if they got, somehow the qualification of the Champions League. I don't know.
I know where you're coming from, but for me, I don't think you should be rewarded with a promotion up to the Champions League or from the conference.
What's the incentive then to win the competition? Really?
Well, you win it. You win a European competition, and the focus should be the league, your domestic league. Whoever finishes highest in your domestic league should be the ones going into that European competition, not some side who finishes 16th or 15th or 17th, or in a normal season, maybe because they drop down and they're focusing on a Europa League, finishing 8th. I just don't see. I think that has to be looked at going forward because of the way they've stopped sides dropping from the Champions League into it. Let the competition stand on its own 2 feet. And if you win the competition, you win the competition. And if you don't qualify as a right to go into the Champions League, you get an automatic spot back into the Europa League. And so does the domestic league that you came from. And you go back and then defend it. I hope they look at it. I doubt they will.
I think there's a few things, though, that need to be looked at. I think that, the way that those top 8 teams don't really get rewarded in the Champions League, the way that we've had to face PSG, the way that Arsenal didn't get any home advantage because they finished, I think, 3rd in the group and they didn't get any advantage. So there's certain things that need tweaking.
Yeah, I think Barca had a similar situation, didn't they?
Yeah.
Apart from the last 60, apart from the first knockout round, every other one, their second leg was away.
Yeah.
But they finished second.
There's certain things that, I don't know, especially just given the history of the competition, that I don't know. It just felt a little bit off. It felt a little undercooked for me this year.
Yeah. One thing, Sukbir made this the Conference League is a complete waste of time. This is where you got the English mentality and the English snobbery coming into it. It's not a waste of time.
Bournemouth doesn't think it's a waste of time. If Bournemouth qualify for the Conference League, that's a big deal to Bournemouth.
But take the English,
Brentford or whoever that would be.
For me, take the English sides out of it. I saw what the Irish sides, the League of Ireland sides, did in Europe this season, winning games and getting into the knockout stages for the first time. The revenue that is generated for the League of Ireland clubs in that competition is massive for that club. And that money is then funneled back into their youth structure to bring through more players and to redevelop stadiums. So while it might be a complete waste of time for a Chelsea, for example, where they're just using it to keep their bench warm and to blood through some of their youngsters, for the vast majority of the leagues that aren't swimming in billionaire money, it's a big competition. And unfortunately, because of the likes of Chelsea and in general, the Premier League clubs, it's very, very difficult for any side from, say, Poland or even the lower qualified sides in Italy or France to push through in this competition. It's really difficult. So, I mean, to say that it's a complete waste of time, no, it's not. But it is what it is with the Premier League sides and the Premier League money at the minute. It's unless you're looking at the money as a whole, comparing what leagues spend on transfers and on players' wages away from on the continent and away from the eyes of the Premier League and the top end of La Liga and the Bundesliga, it's completely different.
Yeah, Jack Dolby here, I think his Leicester fans, has just said, lose to Rome in semi-final killed me. I would love to win the Conference League. Ask any West Ham fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Which at the moment is also Declan Rice's only trophy.
I mean, we've got to take the rose-colored glasses off sometimes, because there are teams that will genuinely be a massive. I mean, even if I'm Forest, and I drop down, I hope they don't drop down all the way to the Conference League. But if they drop down to Europa League, I still think they have a really good chance of winning that. So there's teams in there that haven't. Yeah, I mean, Forest have a pedigree of winning big titles in Europe, and for them to get back to that platform, that would be a really big deal for them as a club. I don't know. I want to be careful that we don't dismiss those competitions just because for us they feel like. I know
Uh-huh.
where you're coming from. But shall we talk about the game? I suppose we should really.
That's what we're.
One sec. Is that Jack? Jack, you can, if you're still there, will you come back? Is that Jack who we used to know, or are you a different Jack? If you are, just let us know, and it'd be interesting. I hope it is the same guy I'm thinking of. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, you wanted to chat about Arsenal?
Yeah. So, and Jack, let us know if you are Jack, because that'll be
Good. If it's the same Jack that me and Chris both know, then it'd be interesting.
Yeah. Good. So let's talk about the game. There will be another Guard of Honor. Honest God, I've never seen so many fucking articles about Guard of Honors and
being subjected to the Guard of Honor.
Subjected to Guard of Honors, how they're antiquated. It's quite simple. If you don't like Guard of Honors, then win the league. You don't have to be subjected to one, or take it to the last game of the season, and there's no chance of doing one. And United, the Rio Ferdinands, who's saying, I don't get it, it's a complete waste of time. Just a bit of a history lesson for you, Rio. Matt Busby brought these in. It was Matt Busby was one of the first to bring it in when United lost the league to, I believe it was Chelsea, and he did a Guard of Honor for Chelsea. So it's a thing. It's been a thing in a lot of sports, and do you know what? It's one of those things. What it actually should do is it should be an incentive. So Liverpool have given we've given Guard of Honor to Arsenal at Anfield when they won the league. I think it was their last league title. Use it as like Roy Keane had said. Yeah, I don't like doing them, but it gives you the kick of the arse. Well, we're not going to do it next year because I'm going to win it next year. That's what you use it for. It's kind of a little bit of a perk of. It's a little bit of a perk of winning the league early. So that should be good fun. You guys looking forward to it? Will you be watching it?
Yeah,
I'll be all watching it anyway.
You'll be watching at home. That's good.
Yeah, Ashley, where are you going to be watching it?
I'm going to watch it at home. I don't have any plans.
Is it on a working stream?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
I mean, it was a working stream that one time at Brentford. It was not my fault. That was all U.S. coverage of that game. And yes, thank you so much. You are in the Champions League places for the you know what.
Oh, I can't wait. Me and Brian will be taking bets going who's going to get called that first. I basically said,
You're up
Brian,
there. You're
I
up
said,
there.
Brian, I've been the favourite for that for about 6 months. And
No,
I think that might be the opening hello. We might have to do it as a patron exclusive. When Ashley and Chris first meet face to face, it could be that could be an interesting hello. That cool. So you're looking forward to it, though. I mean, the Chelsea game was a bit of a.
I don't
really,
want to see
wasn't it?
that again. I mean, I don't know. I was looking at some of the Instagram stories from some of our guys today, and there was McAllister on a beach with his girlfriend. There was Ibu Konate on an airplane with like a full spread in his private jet. There were a few guys that went to Italy. I think it was, I don't know if it was Gakpo or it might have been Gakpo or Virgil that was out there with Dumfries. Like they were all over the globe this week. It looks like they just went back to training yesterday. So I don't know. It's like they've been on the beach, quite literally been on the beach. So I would like to see a better performance than Chelsea, but I also have no idea how many fucks these guys give at this point in time. Like they might just show up and just walk through the guard of honor, and it might be another total catastrophe.
The mad thing about the Chelsea game was it was staying at 1-0 for forever until Virgil said he's going to kick it off Kwanzaa's arse.
Seems like his signature move right now.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Kwanzaa. He's just like he's like that Sideshow Bob meme. Keeps stepping on rakes.
Yeah. It's really
bless it. Because even the penalty is like, fuck me, Bradley. Talk about killing your mate. There you go. There's the hospital pass. Deal with that. So.
Was it Mo who was at the press conference today, and he asked the question about Kwanzaa, and he made a really good point. Kwanzaa played well against Chelsea.
Yeah, that was.
It just so happens that he was at every disaster. He had a ringside seat to every mistake, and it's I don't mind if you're going to have the mistakes, make them in a game like these.
It don't matter. Yeah.
But there was an awful lot about his performance to like, and. He's only going to learn from these mistakes. I haven't a clue what lineup he's going to pick. I don't know.
I mean, Bradley starts to know that.
We know Bradley.
Yes, we'll come to that. Yeah,
yeah. But you look at the rest of it. I haven't seen any of the content from this week at all. Really, I kept an eye on a few things, but I know the players had a couple of days off and they were back in training today. I think they're just ticking over. At this stage of the season, and it doesn't matter really what club you're at, you're not trying to get fit at this stage of the season. You're just ticking over. You're maintaining a level of fitness. I think that the players really should be up for this. I mean, you're at home, you're champions, you only got two more games. You only got two more games at home.
I think the home games is what they want to make sure they win.
Yeah, and in fairness, it's Arsenal. They're not a Mickey Mouse side. You saw enough. You saw enough in that PSG game that they will give you problems if you're not on your level. And we have a good home record against Arsenal. I think it's the last time we lost to Arsenal at home in the league was 2012.
14.
We're not going to want to go there. So irrespective of whether the league's won or not, or whether the players have been on the beach or not, they have to have some kind of inbuilt notion that they and it's like Virgil was saying, you're turning up to work. You want to play well. You want to play well, and you want to win a game.
But is this not also a bit of good management by Slot, which is we've talked about a bit of criticizing Arteta for overplaying players, bit of burnout. Is it always just like you've got the euphoria, you had that. He gave a few players like to Diaz and that just didn't get minutes. Just almost like get out your system, get a bit of a mental reset. And it's almost like treat the last 3 now as right. This is proper preseason now. This is now what we're going to work on for next season. I'm not Arne Slot. If it was me, I'd go your strongest starting 11 for at least the first 60. Because looking at the squad, there's nobody now who has got less than 5 appearances who is going to make an impact. Because the only ones are Trey Owen, he's got 1. He isn't going to play in any of these games. Jaden Dan's is injured, so he's not going to get any of these games. So the rest of the squad have got 5 or plus. So you don't have to worry about giving lads minutes for getting medals. Because I mean, Yaros will get a medal anyway because he's played one game, but it's a bit different with keepers. So for me,
I think the club will order. They can order up to 40 medals, and they'll give discretionary medals to players who've been in and around the squad, and
so like a Yaros,
like a Yaros, and I think they will with the likes of Neone and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a Morton and a Neone and maybe McConnell even.
Yeah, I think it was important for Chiesa to get those minutes and to justify. I'll die on this hill. He's been really hard done by this season. But it is what it is.
Honestly, do you know if we needed to? Do you know if we were ahead or we need a goal at the moment? I'd rather just say to, do you know what? Just put Chiesa through the middle. Partly for shits and giggles, partly for I'm thinking like, well, at least when he runs through the middle, he gets a shot on target, which more than the other two Muppets are doing at the moment. The other two are painful to watch. Also, we know what Nunes can do. We know what Jota is level is now. The last 3 games, if you need a goal, why not just throw Chiesa on now and just go play him through the middle, just see what he can do?
I have no problem.
You're going to sell him,
Well, if you're going to sell him, we'll get a bit more money back. If we're not going to sell him,
at least put him up for some sort of display to show what he can do, because we spent all this money getting him fit. I mean, we look like one of the best rehab centers in the entire world. The way that we get Arthur Melo fit, and then we get Chiesa fit. But for his own merit, I think he does deserve to get a little bit more game time. And I don't know. I mean, we saw a couple players not seize the opportunity at Chelsea. I am curious to see if those players get game time again.
Yeah.
I think Elliott was the one that was maybe the standout for the wrong reasons.
The other thing I would say is I would like to have seen Elliott start with Gravenberch and McAllister behind him, and a Salah and a Diaz either side of him. Because if that's a serious league game, you throw an Elliott in, you're not making 6 changes. If we needed wins in that game, if you wanted to give Elliott minutes, because Elliott's best work is when he's with the rest of the regular first team, and I think 6 changes.
You have to actually set him up in a situation to thrive, and not. I don't know. For me, that was setting him up for failure, and I don't think that was a fair way to assess him for his, what he's. And I know that they're not being assessed per se in these games, but if you want to see if he is still going to be a valuable member of the squad going forward, it is an opportunity. Treat it like a preseason game if you want to, but use it in a way where at least you could actually see the way that he could link with other players, and you're not just kind of tying his hands behind his back while he plays.
I think he'll go strong anyway. I honestly do. I think he'll. I don't know if it'll be his best 11, but
let's go through a team and see what we think then. So Ali in goal. Yeah, I think we all agree on that. I don't think Trent's going to start by.
No, I'm hoping now.
I'm okay with that.
I'm all right with that.
Exit stage left for Trent.
If I'm honest, if Bradley hadn't got injured, I don't think he'd have started Tottenham or Chelsea. No. I think the plan was always. Slot's known since March apparently that he was going. Yeah. So I think the plan was always Trent, you're going to get last 20s to rest, if they need to rotate Bradley out, because they're sort of building him up to get regular full 90s. And I think, like he did against Leicester, I think that was the plan for him. And I think that'll be the plan with him for the rest of the season is, whether people like it or not, he will get time on the pitch for the next 3 games. I just don't expect him to start on either, which I'm fine with, because at the moment
clarified that he said Bradley starts. We know that Bradley's going to start.
Yeah, but Bradley also, we need to see him do back-to-back games because we haven't seen him do it enough. So we need to see if he's capable of it.
The thing is, at this time of the season, he'll have no problems doing back-to-back games because back-to-back games are a week apart. You know what I mean? He's not going to have any problems doing back-to-back games now. It's going to be a case with. Look, he's going to get fitter. He's going to get physically stronger. We know that. He's going to have to get into the gym and work this summer on developing himself physically. But it's going to be when we're playing Champions League, Premier League, League Cup, in the space of 5 games in 18 days in October. that's when we'll find out about Conor Bradley and his fitness. We're not going to find out anything now. What we're going to find out now is his link-up play, what Arne Slot is asking him to do, what positions on the pitch he's asking him to take up, and how he adapts to that over the course of 70 minutes. Because I think you're right. I think Trent will be coming on 70 minutes for the rest of the season, unless Trent himself turns around and says, "Yeah, I want to stay fit for my move." And
you might see an Endo drop back. You might see a Jones drop back. Like, if you're gonna play around with coverage for next year, I almost don't care about Trent anymore. I think he can just exit stage left.
No, the club aren't going to do that. The club aren't going. Yeah, the club aren't going to. Yeah, the club aren't going to be petty about it.
Slot's going to be practical, which is, and he's just about winning games. And if he thinks, right, last 20 minutes, I need to throw Trent on to do what he needs Leicester, I'll do it. Because ultimately, he's like, well, he's still until he leaves, he's still my player. I'm going to use it. I'm
more interested to see what Trent's reaction is going to be when it comes down to the last couple of games of the season. Does he fancy playing? And knowing that, I think the club will probably do a deal to allow him to take up, to allow him to go early. I think they'll do a deal. I think they'll do that deal. I think it'd be silly not to. But
I think the reason they'll do that deal is because you never know when you want to buy a player from Madrid. And
you don't want to
kick yourself up the arse a bit later.
Yeah, there's that side of it. But the other side of it is, look, I'd rather have whatever we're going to get back off in our coffers because it's money for old rope. He's going anyway. It doesn't make a blind bit of difference. But what I'm saying is it'll be interesting to see if Trent goes into his... And we've seen players do this, where they go into self-preservation mode, where they don't want to get injured. Because at the end of the day, until he signs on the dotted line, if someone decides, if there's a 50-50 and Trent decides, oh, I'm not going in for that, and he gets hurt, he's out of contract.
You don't know where his head's at either. Like, we saw what happened after that little bit of chit chat on, like, right before that United game. There was nothing really truly announced. But for me, I would have honestly rather seen Jones play it right back in that game because the way that Trent played was diabolical. And so I have no idea what his reception is going to be like this weekend. And I don't know. Is he going to be in the right headspace to play at all?
Yeah, I mean, for balance, though, that performance of Trent against United, we have seen those performances from Trent throughout his career. He is capable of those sort of big dips.
I don't know if they've
coincidental timing, but there's also that aim. There's that thing. So,
but he rarely lives in that space. He rarely.
Sometimes he'll move through a game and there'll be dips, and then for me that was like a total stinker of a performance.
Yeah,
but performance is, I'm being generous.
Yeah, but he won't generally, even throughout the bad nights that he's had for the club, and he's had plenty. He doesn't tend to have 2 or 3 on the bounce, but. At the end of the day, I don't know how the club are going to cope, or not how the club are going to cope. I don't know how he's going to manage himself through this situation. We'll see how it goes. But centre back, would you be making any wholesale changes?
I do your main two, Canate and Van Dijk. Canate got a rest, and you're not going to rush your captain.
2 weeks for Gravenberch and Canate not playing. I feel like that would be, I don't know, that would almost be more of a risk for injury. Than resting them.
I think so. I think Robbo gets left back. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, against Saka, 100%.
Yeah. Listen, whoever you play against Saka is going to be a tough game for him. I think it's the usual two in the middle, Maka and Grav.
Yeah.
Both been rested, so you bring them in. I think Domo comes in for Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think you need his legs to press that Arsenal midfield, and then I think he also the front three that. Like it or loathe it, it's the front three he's played the most this season, which is Gakpo and Salah and Diaz through the middle. Yeah.
You could make an argument for Jota, but again, like, for me, that Jota experiment has run its course.
Yeah,
if Jota's still at the club next year, Jota is a impact sub next year. That's his.
I think so.
I think that'll be his role. If we do the business we think we're going to do.
The beauty is, all right, let's just play devil's advocate for a second. If you do that with Jota, okay, and you physically get him right, then if you get him absolutely right, like we've done with Chiesa, like we did with Arthur Melo, as he's proved since his move, He's gone on and he's kicked on in his career. If you get Diogo Jota and you don't use him as much as what you have been using, you're not relying on him as much as you have been, and you use him sparingly, and you use him for 6 months, and you build him up and you get him right. What an asset! What an asset if you can get him right. You know, at the end of the day, he's not over the hill and he's not a cripple, but he's physically been through the mill this season with impact. With mainly it was a bad impact injury. You know, but I don't know which way the club are going to go with that. It's one of many questions that I think we all have about what they're going to do in this. So I can't wait until we start seeing.
Dan Jones makes a good point. Is Jota also have a full summer off? In fact, nearly all of our squad has a summer off, which is quite a rarity.
It'll be their last summer off for a while.
Yeah.
Salah had last summer off, which made a big difference.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Jota is he's a bit like Gomez in the sense that you can get him really fit, and then there can be a tuft of grass on the training pitch, and something can happen. I don't mean to. I'm not saying they're completely injury prone, because I do think a lot of those things were impact injuries and outside of their control. But for me, I'm not hanging my hat on either of those players right now or going forward.
No, but I think my way of looking at it is, look how well we've done this year under Slot, and let's be honest, half those lads didn't really have a pre-season with him.
Yeah.
This is going to be a full pre-season. Yeah. The way Slot wants to do it. Yes, we are going to go to Asia as well, but it'll just be interesting. Slot's got longer to implement whatever tweaks he wants to.
Australia? Is that still a thing? That was a rumor for a little while about them going to Australia like right after this season ends. I don't know if that's been confirmed.
No, I don't think they're doing an end of season tour. Okay. Not as far as I know. Well, in fairness, there's plenty of people from Australia in the Telegram. So
yeah, if anyone knows if that's been confirmed, it was a rumor for a while.
Yeah,
we'll see. But I hope we go strong enough that
because I think Arsenal will.
I think Arsenal have got no choice. I
know
they've got players back.
You don't want to get embarrassed at home. You want to keep this.
They're a good enough side to embarrass you. They're a good enough side to embarrass you if you let them. You know, I mean, look, I think that they've been poor this season, but yeah, they've got a lot of draws and they've thrown away a lot of leads, but they've got into leads. You know, they've got into those positions to lose the games, and they're a bastard of a side to play against if you let them play. So I just hope we're turn up on a day and we're really aggressive. The only thing is this stuff with the guard of honor. If they do it, and I'm an Arsenal player, I'm doing it through gritted teeth, and I'm going to make sure I put a performance in. I'll show you.
Arteta said that they were gonna do it. Like he came out said they were. I do think that their mentality going into this game is going to be interesting. Like when we went to PSG, we were deflated. We did not play like ourselves after we went to PSG. And granted, there was extra time and penalties, and that's a whole different realm of emotions. But I imagine that the Arsenal players feel quite deflated right now. Their season is over. Do they go into this game feeling, completely burned out, like enough is enough, we're done, we've tried, and, nothing's come of it? Or do they go in with like a renewed sense of vigor, trying to, I don't know, where they feel kind of like a scorned lover and they're going after it? I don't know what the plan is.
It's hard to tell, because I mean, everyone reacts differently to big losses, and going out of the Champions League semi-final, and Liverpool have done it. It's a hard kick in the teeth to take that, and some players take it as a "F you, I'm gonna show you what I'm made of," and some players just go, "It's done now, season's over, can't win the league, we're already pretty much guaranteed top 4." You kind of mentally go through the motions, even if you don't mean to. You can mentally switch off, so it'll be interesting. The one thing you would say is Arsenal Liverpool games are normally entertaining. There's always incidents and there's always goals.
There's always goals.
You're saying it's going to be 0-0 now. Is basically you're.
Well, listen, you're the one that jinxes my trips to Anfield by predicting losses, so you're probably going to do that as well to me.
Take a shot.
Oh, I'm going. Did I not mention I'm going? Yeah.
Take a second shot.
Jack is Jack, and the conversation was about Jamie Vardy and Leicester and Wrexham and what have you. Vardy's already come out and said he's rubbish that. He wants to play at a higher level. And Jack is saying, because Jack has been on the pod before plenty of times when we were discussing, we used to do the preview shows. And he's basically saying that he's been heavily linked with Wrexham, but he's backed himself to stay at a top level. The MLS, Christian Fuchs and Dean Smith are at Charlotte. Plus, he needs to pay off Rebecca's legal bills. This is true. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of that'll be an interesting one, to be honest. But, yeah.
I can see that. I mean,
Yeah,
he definitely still has enough to play over here.
Oh, good God, yeah.
Definitely.
There is a rumor Johnny Evans is off to Wrexham.
Wouldn't surprise me, but the only thing I'd look at with any player who goes to the MLS from the Premier League, the first thing they have to get used to is the travelling. I'll never forget watching an interview with Steven Gerrard.
Very far apart here.
Yeah, he said that was the killer and played at altitude.
And Robbie Keane said the same, because Robbie Keane was over there for a lot longer, and he said it's so different when you're traveling East Coast, West Coast, and around the United States for games and trying to fit training in and do the stuff that you're used to doing in the Premier League for preparation and stuff. It is completely alien. So
if you think like a cold night in Stoke is bad, like the swings in weather from all the different places that you'd be traveling to, like it's wildly different north to south, east to west. Like it takes a toll. I wouldn't want to be in my 30s, like really pushing myself physically at the end of my career.
Yeah.
And then having to play up at like altitude in Colorado. Like that would be tough.
Yeah, and then head to Miami and then head to LA and then back up to Seattle and
then head over to Utah and there's just a lot there.
No chance. Yeah. But anyway, get back to our game. How do you guys, because Chris, we're watching it at home. You're not watching it at home, are you?
No, I'm going again.
Take a shot.
I'm going again. So I'm looking forward to it. You know, and it's also going to be nice, hot and sunny as well. So rarity.
I hope Olivia has a good time because I don't wish anything for you, but I hope she has a good time.
Yeah, I was trying to work out if she's been this year. Her only game this year was the Fulham game.
She has good luck when it comes to that going to Arsenal games, doesn't she? She went to that cup game.
Her very first game was Arsenal League Cup, the 5-5 and won on penalties, which was just a ridiculous league.
Hopefully
the best first game you could ever have. Really.
So scorers and goal scorers. What are you guys going for?
Go on, Ash. You go first.
I'm gonna go 2-1 to us. I think Mo Salah gets onto the score sheet and ticks himself over into that record. He's got a couple more records he can break this year, but in terms of total goal and assist involvements for this season, I think he can do it. I think the other goal scorer, I'm going to say Diaz. I feel like he's been quite good for us recently. He's been in a bit of good form for them. I don't really care. It's probably going to be Saka just because, there's banter and they're going to say that Saka is better than Mo, even though they've lost their fucking minds.
I think it'd be high scoring. I'm going to go for 4-2.
Nice.
That'd be exciting.
I think they'll come to try to get a result, try to get this PSG game out of their system, and I can see there being lots of chances in this game. I think Cody Gakpo is definitely due. I have him down for 1. I think Diaz with his pace gets a brace. I think he could, and I think Salah will give Kivior an absolute nightmare. And I don't care if Calafiori is just back from injury. I hope he twists his blood, and Salah just gives him an absolute nightmare. So I go for one for Mo, 2 for Diaz, and 1 for Cody Gakpo, and Salah to get the record for the goals and assists involvement in this game.
Cool. I'll go 3-1 as well, and I'm going to say Virgil from a corner, McAllister, Salah, and for them, Marina, because he's actually a very good goal scorer. I think his record is like 7 in his last 11 or 12, which for a makeshift striker, credit where it's due. Like they stuck him up front, and to be fair to him, he's actually made an impact.
He's like the new Joe Linton. He's been molded, except in the reverse direction.
Right.
Cool.
And just quickly before we go, there's a few little things in the gossip pages that we're not going to dwell too much on. Chelsea have made contact over Rafael Leao. 63.5 million for the 25-year-old Portuguese winger from AC Milan. Be interesting to see if that deal pans out. Arsenal have opened talks with William Saliba. They better. Joe Bellingham to Borussia Dortmund following his brother's footsteps. 25 million fee being talked about. Florian Wirtz has agreed to join Bayern Munich. Thank
Who
God.
knew?
Thank God.
Surprise, surprise.
Look, with them losing Thomas Muller, it was no doubt that they were going to the next.
Fantastic. He's a fantastic.
To the next.
I'm just glad he's not going to City because he was City's primary target.
Yeah.
I'd have been all over him.
That was their number one target.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I'd have been all over him if he was available to us, but I think that had.
I think they'll move on to Gibbs White, though. I think Gibbs White will be the next target for City.
Yeah. One that could come of interest to us is Xavi Alonso is keen on 20-year-old Bournemouth and Spain defender Dean Huijsen. With Xavi Alonso looking to take over at Real Madrid, we know he likes playing a back three. We know he likes ball-playing centre-backs.
I feel like that would just add insult to injury, where you're like, you've got Trent, you've got all of this, and you're like, just steal another player from us.
Yeah, but we always...
Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we always said that if Real Madrid come in for him,
I know, yeah.
And it was always touted earlier in the season.
I mean, he said it out loud.
He was Real Madrid bound. Yeah, he has said it out loud. So, it's going to be Liverpool looking to extend Luis Diaz's contract. Nottingham Forest have joined Newcastle and Inter Milan in the race to sign Liverpool and England centre-back Gerald Kwanzaa.
He's getting a lot of name drops recently. It was interesting to hear Slot talk about him today. He spoke very highly of him and talked a lot about how he was one for the future and how he has all the attributes to play at the club and that, he just needs to get that consistency. There was a good point made about, how does he do that without game time? But I think
I'd quite like him to get a Prem loan. I'd like him to get like a Prem loan to someone like a Palace.
I don't want him. If he goes out on a loan, it's done. Like that to me is that he's gone.
I don't want him leaving the club full stop. He's not going to get any better leaving. At his age,
he's still very young, and I think that we see this with center backs where they don't peak until much older. Like if you look back at Virgil, he had bumps in the road. There were times where people went and scouted Virgil and said, no, he's not ready. And he was at that age and you see what he becomes. And I don't know if Kwanzaa has that ceiling, but if you have a player like that, who's also, he helps with the homegrown quota, I just think you keep him around.
Well, I wouldn't be just keeping him for the quota. The quota is one thing. I mean, we're going to be playing the bones of 60 plus games next season. There's plenty of games for everyone.
That's why I don't think Elliott goes.
No, not me.
I don't want him to go either.
Partly because I think he's a good player, but also there is the whole, if you're losing Trent and Kelleher, most likely that's two homegrown
and
gone. Morton. And you're probably going to get Bradley and Elliott come in as homegrown because they're now at that age. It's a bit of a risk because if you're going to replace him, you need to replace him with another homegrown player. And let's be honest, homegrown players aren't cheap. Clubs know how to fleece them. Another link, Kev, that's come up. The good old aggregators. Apparently, Paul Joyce says so. Okay, but it's an aggregator, so let's see. Frimpong is the leading candidate. Should Liverpool look to strengthen that position this summer? I mean, probably not.
Thank you very much.
Bit of a worst case secret, but it kind of feels like that's
at that 35 million euros. I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's no brainer.
Yeah, it makes
absolutely no brainer.
And I think it would be unfair to Connor Bradley's development to put all of those games on him. It would just be unfair to him, especially knowing his history with injuries. It wouldn't make any sense to me just thrusting him in. Although he has the capacity to, get to that level eventually. I think you have to monitor him and nurse him back.
It would strike me of, and careful if I remember this fella. Do you remember Emiliano Insula? Insua,
Yeah.
the young Argentine left back, highly rated, looks like he had lots of talent, but because Aurelio got crocked, he had to play almost a full season, and it absolutely ruined him because we couldn't take him out. And like all young players, they have a dip, but we couldn't take him out because we had no one else, and it ruined him. And
He did go on to have a decent career, but it finished him with us.
It took a while for him to kick on again, didn't it?
Yeah, to Jennifer Ball's question, yes, if we get rid of any club-grown players, homegrown players, they have to be replaced like for like. So
I think so. Yeah.
Frimpong does qualify as homegrown because of his time at Man City. I think the buyout is ridiculously cheap for a player of his talent.
Nicky also makes a good point. Frimpong, because he also can play on the wing, could also be a bit of a diddle for while Mo's away over Christmas for the AFCON.
I don't see him doing that, but it's an option.
It's an option. It's a slot light plays. Like
those Swiss Army knife players are fantastic no matter what.
Yeah.
If it needs more, you go, well, especially like I was thinking like a difficult away game in Europe. Okay, well, we could first do the right hand side of just do Bradley on Frimpong. Still fast. But it gives you that little bit of stability in front of it. So
and I think it pushes Bradley on. I don't think that Frimpong would be coming in as a backup to Bradley. I think it's truly like you guys fight it out. Frimpong is a fantastically talented player. Behind Wirtz, I think he was probably their most creative player there. So to get him in, that would be an upgrade. I mean, nothing's going to upgrade on what Trent is. And, Trent's gone.
That's what I mean.
But
I think to replace Trent's creativity, we need that. We need to build that, as they say, build it into the aggregate with other players, whether that's through your 9, more creativity from the wing, or another creative midfielder. I think that's probably where you look to add that element. And the right back and left back are a bit more the old-fashioned flying fullbacks, which, to be honest, have served Liverpool quite well over the years. So I'm not too worried about that. Right, anything you want to say before we go?
Nope, that was it. That was me done.
I think we are over time.
We are over time, so Gab's going to get.
He's going to
be so annoyed. Yeah,
we were doing so well the other night.
Just blame me. I'm used to it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that format going forward for doing a little bit of research for players, I think that was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys listened to that.
And if you don't know what to talk about, become a patron. That's one of our Patreon exclusive shows where we went through number 9 options. We all picked two different options each and went through pros and cons of each one. And it was good fun. Gav did it on a timer, so it was all good fun. But anyway, look, we need to go because it's late at night. I've got to get ready for a game on Sunday because I don't know if I mentioned I'm going, and Ashley's got to make sure her internet works because what you don't want is Mo Salah scoring a winner and it going because that'd be awful. Anyway, I'm going to go now before Ashley batters me. Until then, take care.
See ya.
Hi everyone.
Bye.
You're in trouble.
Again.